I have made the ultimate Magicka Nightblade. This build can do it all solo content in the game with ease. Group dungeons, trials. I even solo tanked a Cloud Rest for Lucky Ghost with this build and didn't die. And there's no trial gear needed. I'm also doing a giveaway on this video, and there'll be more details about that towards the end of the video. I'm so excited to share this build with you, so stick around because you're in for a treat. I love the Nightblade, and I've played it since launch. I've done all the hardest content in the game on the Magicka Nightblade, and this one is capable of it as well. The Nightblade as it stands is arguably one of the hardest classes to play well. With this build, I found a way to simplify the build and the rotation to make it as easy as physically possible while still putting out massive amount of damage like the Nightblade is known for. To show you all of this video will include everything you need to get the most out of this build. We'll be going over race, attributes, Mundus, consumables, gear, skills, champion points. At the end, I'll go over everything and explain how to get the most out of the Nightblade, what makes it tick, and how to utilize it to its full potential. So let's start with race. Our first and best choice is the Dark Elf. With its boost to weapon and spell damage and max magicka and stamina pool, this is going to be our best choice for damage. Our other choices in order following the Dark Elf are Khajiit for a nice balance between damage and sustain, High Elf for technically the most damage, however that damage is less than 1% more than the Dark Elf, making the Dark Elf the most optimal choice for this build in my opinion. And finally, the Breton, if you want a lot of sustain. Race is not a giant factor anymore unless you're min-maxing in endgame, so choose whatever you want, whatever feels and looks the most fun to you. For our attributes, we are staying true to the Magicka Nightblade by putting all 64 into Magicka, and for our Mundus, we'll be sticking with the Thief. For our consumables, starting with food, we're going with Ghastly Eyeball, an extremely easy to craft recipe allowing us to use it as early as level 1. To get this recipe easily, just buy it off a guild trader for very cheap, or you can buy stacks of the food itself off the trader as well. The choice is yours. For potions, we're going to be using Essence of Spell Power. This will give us 3 major buffs that will help us a lot. First, Major Sorcery, increasing our spell damage by 20%, Major Prophecy, increasing our spell critical rating, and Major Intellect, which increases our magical recovery by 30%. These potions can be pricey at times, so if you really like, you can use Tri-Stat potions or regular Magicka potions as a substitute when you're doing easier content. You'll lose a significant portion of damage, but in things like overlaying content, you will not need it with how incredibly strong this build is. To make Essence of Spell Power pots yourself, you want to combine Cornflower, Lady Smock, and Water Hyacinth with some Lorcan's Tears. And a quick side note, to get the most out of our potions, we'll be taking a passive from the alchemy tree called Medicinal Use. This passive with 3 points into it increases the effects of potions by a whopping 30%. This will allow us to get 100% uptimes on our potions effects. For gear, we're starting with the classic tried and true Pillar of Nirn. With this set, we get max stam, crit chance, weapon and spell damage, and for our 5th piece bonus, when we deal any damage, we create a fissure underneath the enemy doing bleed damage for 10 seconds. This also has a 10-second cooldown, meaning we get 100% uptime on this set. This set is super easy to get and drops out of the Folkreath Hold dungeon. We'll be front barring this set with an Inferno stuff with the Precise Trait to help raise that crit chance. Now, for the interesting part, we're going for another medium set called Hexo's Ward. This set drops from Overland in the Deadlands, meaning you can even buy it from a guild trader. Now, what makes this set so good? Because it's medium, it's boosting our spell and crit damage. That means that we want crit chance, and that's exactly what we're going to get. With the 2-piece giving crit chance, 3 giving weapon and spell damage, 4 giving us more crit chance, and here's the kicker. For the 5-piece, when dealing direct critical damage, we get a damage shield that absorbs almost 12k of damage. This thing lasts 6 seconds and can occur every 7 seconds. That means almost 100% uptime on it as well. With both sets being medium, it means you can mix and match between jewelry. It's just important that body pieces are divines with max magicka enchantments, and jewelry is bloodthirsty or infused with increased spell damage glyphs on them. Nice and quickly, we've gone for the Maelstrom Inferno stuff on the back bar with the infused trait and a weapon damage glyph. You don't need the perfected version. When things stand in our wall of elements, we get increased light attack damage. To wrap up our gear, we need a helmet of some sort. And for that, we're going with something very different. We're going to go with Baylorgs for the shoulder and the head, both in light and divines. This is to help increase that spell pen and crit chance. Baylorg is super unique. Its 1 piece gives us weapon and spell damage, but the 2 piece is what we're going to take advantage of here. When we use an ultimate ability, we gain weapon and spell damage equal to the amount of ultimate consumed, and physical and spell penetration equal to 23 times the amount for 12 seconds. Nightblades are notorious for their old gen. Using a combination of skills and passives, we're going to take full advantage of this set. Balog's head drops from the March of Sacrifices dungeon, and you can get the shoulder from the Undaunted vendor. Now for skills. We're going to be doing some really fun stuff. So starting with the front bar, we have Mirage. This gives us major evasion, reducing our damage from area attacks by 20%, and minor resolve, increasing our physical and spell resistance for 20 seconds. Next, Impale. The skill that makes Nightblade so special. Our Execute, this deals 330% more damage to enemies below 25% health. So as soon as we see that health under 25%, we're going to use this as our spammable. This skill also works up to 28 meters away. For our spammable, we're going to be going with the Nightblade's bread and butter, Swallow Soul, one of the strongest self-heals in the game, healing us for 37% of the damage inflicted every 2 seconds. This one also works up to 28 meters away. And for our big boom damage, Merciless Resolve. We activate this one, and while it's active, every light attack that lands adds a stack. When we get to 5 stacks, we can press it again to hit Assassin's Will and do incredibly strong burst damage. Not only does it do huge burst damage, but it also heals, and a must-have on all Nightblades. The last skill on the front bar is Concealed Weapon. Usually used as a spammable and a very good one, we will however not be using it as that. We are using it as a buff, and here's why. Concealed Weapon not only procs our passives for this tree, giving us max health, stam, and Magicka recovery just for having it slotted, it also gives us 10% damage done when we leave Snake Invisibility or Major Expedition. The Major Expedition is an important part, remember that. We'll be coming back to it and explaining how this build will be taking advantage of this. And last but not least, our front bar ultimate, we will be going with Soul Harvest. This ultimate is so much fun. It increases our damage against them by 20% for 6 seconds. But just for having it slotted, we gain 10 ultimate every time we kill an enemy. For our back bar, we'll be starting off with Unstable Wall of Fire. This is here for our Maelstrom stuff. This ability lays down an AoE in front of us, and enemies that are burning will take 10% more damage. And when it ends, it explodes on them for a nice bit of damage as well. This will also be proccing our weapon damage enchantment on our staff, even while we're on our front bar. And remember, things that are in our Wall of Elements take more light attack damage. Next is Twisting Path. Again, it will give us those same max health and stam and Magicka recovery bonuses on our back bar just for being slotted. It also lays down an AoE in front of us, which grants us Major Expedition. Remember that Concealed Weapon effect? That's right. As you can see here, as long as we are standing in our Twisting Path, every couple of seconds, it refreshes our Major Expedition, keeping that 10% damage up all the time, even while we're on our front bar. On top of that, we're going to be doing a nice bit of damage paired with our Wall of Elements. Next, Channeled Acceleration. Giving us Major Expedition, it also gives us Minor Force, which increases our critical damage by 10% and lasts for a huge 60 seconds. Onto one of our buffs, Siphoning Attacks. A must-have. This ability causes our light and heavy attacks to heal and restore Magicka for 20 seconds. And when it ends, we get a huge burst of Magicka back. It gives more based on how long it's been up, so let that puppy run out. Onto our last skill and our flex spot, I went with Dark Shade. This ability lasts for 22 seconds and does a substantial amount of damage. But where it helps for solo is the maim. When it does its whirlwind attack, it inflicts minor maim, which reduces damage done by 5% for 4 seconds. Other notable skills that could go there is Scalding Rune or Structured Entropy from the Mage's Guild skill line. The choice is yours for that slot. I slotted in a Rage in there and tanked the Cloud Rest you saw in the beginning. For our back bar ultimate, we're using the Destro Staff ultimate, Elemental Rage. This thing is a huge AoE. With a Fire Staff, it increases the damage by 15%. It also costs 250 ultimate. So we'll be taking advantage of our Balog's monster set, getting weapon and spell damage and physical and spell penetration for using it. We want to use this as much as possible, especially at the start of a fight. An honorable mention should go to Shooting Star from the Mage's Guild. This thing is a fantastic ult, giving us ult back based on enemies hit and hitting like a truck. It's also extremely fun to use. I do find the Destro ult outperforms it in content and scales better with our monster set, but if you like Shooting Star, by all means run it. It will be fantastic as well. After that, it brings us to the last piece of the build, the champion points. Starting out with the blue, we're going to go with Wrathful Strikes to increase our weapon and spell damage, Deadly Aim to increase our single target damage, Master at Arms, which increases our damage done with direct damage, and Fighting Finesse, which increases our critical damage and our critical healing done. For the red tree, we're going to go Fortified for increased armor, Boundless Vitality for increased max health, Rejuvenation for increased health, magicka, and stamina recovery, and the final piece is a flex spot. It depends on you. I highly recommend Slippery for newer players. This automatically breaks free for no cost every 21 seconds, but other great ones can be Expert Evasion for free roll dodge, Celerity for speed, or even siphoning spells if you're struggling for sustain, which you really shouldn't be, but hey, it's there if you want it. Now, just before we get into the masterclass of the Nightblade, I am doing an ESO code giveaway for subscribers. So if you're enjoying the video, hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed, and comment with which platform you're on and which of the following you would like. I have up for grabs a copy of High Isle, 3k crowns, a Torchbug Pet, or a Month of ESO Plus. This is for all platforms, and I'll be drawing the winner from the comments on November 17th, 2022. Okay, it's time to learn about this and explain just how it works. Let's start with what this build has. It is self-sustaining, speedy, big burst heals, mitigation, and big damage windows. The first thing to know about any Nightblade in general is it benefits most from light attacks. Our Merciless Resolve, siphoning attacks, and Alt Gen all require light attacking. Don't let this scare you. I have a whole in-depth guide to light weaving. I'll link it in the description below, explaining everything that you could need. By light attacking, we're getting resources back, healing, gaining ultimate, and setting up our bow to proc. This is where the build itself shines. In fact, I think it's fair to say where all Nightblades shine. So that's how we're going to sustain. We're also going to sustain through passives and buffs. Things like the Executioner passive restores stamina if an enemy dies within 2 seconds of being damaged by you. Refreshing Shadows, which buffs health, stam, and mag recovery by 15%, and of course our potion buffs too. Next is Big Burst Heals. So Merciless Resolve, for this to heal, we need to be within melee range, which is more forgiving than we realize. Swallow Soul, of course, keeps a big heal over time on us every 2 seconds. And again, potion buffs and even passives like Soul Siphoner, which increases our healing done by 3% for each siphoning ability we have slotted. Pairing that with our mitigation is how this shines. It means we can take the hits or let things chip away at us, and our heals will just keep rolling in. To put them together is what makes it shine. For example, casting our Path on our back bar procs our Shadow Barrier passive, granting us Major Resolve for 6 seconds, and casting Mirage is giving us Major Evasion and Minor Resolve, meaning our resistances are going through the roof and we're taking 20% less damage from AoE. Swapping to our back bar when blocking a heavy will activate our Psijic passive, Concentrated Barrier, which gives us a 5k shield and is recharged after 10 seconds of not blocking. On top of that, we are always proccing our Hexo's Ward set, which is keeping a big 12k shield on us very often. This basically means our resistances are really high while always being shielded. It's what allows us to run such a low health pool. We are minimizing our damage intake and consistently healing through it. And of course, big damage windows. Usually when you become this tanky or sustainable, you have to give something up, and that thing is usually damage. But this time, we have found a way for it to work. It's truly thanks to the Nightblade. The Nightblade's damage revolves around critical. It has high crit chance with high crit damage, and here is no exception. Because we have our staves, that crit chance is dropped, but we have squeezed every bit of blood out of the stone to find more. Crit chance from sets, skills, potions, or even hemorrhage, which is unique to the Nightblade, giving us 10% crit damage, but it also gives minor savagery to you and your group. This makes it easy to crit. But on a build like this, in a solo instance, you would usually want some sort of breach applied to the enemy. A tank usually applies this in group, and most solo builds will run something like Caltrops or even Elemental Drain to do this. What separates this build is we are leaning into our monster set and relying on our ultimate. That monster set gives us 23 times the ultimate used in penetration. This means the more ult we use, the more pen we get. Creeping as high, if not higher, than the breach debuff. We also get a little bit of pen from our monster set being light from the concentration passive. So we got crit, we got pen, and then we need spell damage, which we have as that is increased by the medium armor passive agility. So our buffs are applied, our healing and resource management is happening while we're fighting, and our damage is skyrocketing when we hit those big ult dumps, just from doing our rotation. Our rotation is just buffs up, wall, path, swallow soul, bow when it's ready, shade if it falls off, and impale over swallow soul in execute. When I said this build has it all, I meant it. Everything built in, self-reliant, and best of all, extremely easy to use for a Magblade as far as they go. Now, I'll leave it there because this video is long enough. I could talk about Nightblades all day, and this build in particular is the best solo Magicka Nightblade you're gonna find. So with that said, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out anytime and ask. You can find me on Twitch, in Discord, or leave a comment. And while we're talking about comments, don't forget to enter that giveaway to make sure you're subscribed. Leave a like and a comment with what you'd like to win from the options from earlier. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.